You're listening to the Visionary Lifestyle Podcast, the show that's dedicated to raising consciousness and empowering you to activate your highest potential. I'm your host, Magda Freedom Rod. Our guest today is Jules Bright. Jules is a New Zealand native. She's also a mother, a registered nurse, a registered naturopath, a medical herbalist, a Rongoa practitioner, that's Maori Bush Medicine, an ambulance officer, Reiki Master, Shamanic Practitioner, Remedial Body Therapist, skincare designer, developer, and manufacturer, as well as a teacher, an entrepreneur, an author, plus she flies airplanes, guys. Is there anything this woman doesn't do? It's been made known to her on several occasions that now is the time to share some of the knowledge she's accumulated, as the Earth is in danger. The way we are living is not sustainable for planet Earth or her inhabitants, Jules says. She has a vision to come together as a global community and activate change through our human potential in the best way possible. To co-create your life into the dream life that we have always wanted. Jules plugged into her higher knowledge and ever since has downloaded potent and powerful information that we require for our ascension with the planet, utilizing our gifts and talents collectively. I met Jules at the New Earth Festival in Bali, where she was presenting a workshop entitled Sacred Earth Medicine. I was immediately struck by her presence when I saw her photo in the program, and then I went to her workshop. I took pages of notes as everything she spoke of was so intriguing to me. She spoke of plants, earth medicine, wild food. She spoke of plants, earth medicine, wild food, and cycles in a way I had not heard from anyone before. Jules calls herself a self-appointed voice for the trees. Listen to our conversation and you'll understand why. I feel so blessed I got this time with her, as everyone at the festival was vying for her attention. And after the interview, we sat and drank coconuts together for a couple hours as she told me one unbelievable, jaw-dropping story after another about the adventure that has been her life. This woman seriously needs to have a movie made about her extraordinary life experiences. So for now, take a listen and see if you can find some inspiration in the unique insights and sharing from the one and only Jules Bright. Namaste. Welcome to the show, Jules Bright.
Thank you.
Shining so bright, even in this dim room that we're sitting in here at the New Earth Ancient Futures Festival in Bali. Yay!
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, really grateful for you to spend the time with me right now. I know you're being pulled in a lot of directions here, and you have so much wisdom to share, and everybody really wants a lot of your attention.
Well, it's beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for spending the time with us.
My pleasure.
I deeply enjoyed your workshop, your talk yesterday, and made full pages of notes. And you touched on so many things that resonate so deeply with my heart that I would really love to bring to as many people as possible. You clearly carry so much wisdom. And first, I just want to thank you for your yes to showing up and doing the work that you're doing in the world. You truly are shining so bright.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you, sister. That means the world. Yeah.
Yay. So many, I don't even know where to start, honestly. Plant medicine. The title of your workshop was Sacred Earth Medicine, and one of the things that I'm promoting with my work is planet love and the earth, Pachamama, Gaia. Sacred Earth Medicine is the title of your workshop here. Tell us a bit about the Sacred Earth Medicine.
I came to Sacred Earth Medicine, I think I was born with it, but it wasn't my world at all. It was the opposite to that. And my grandmother was my wise woman, and every time I went for a visit to her place, she would take me straight to the garden and teach me of the medicines of the garden before we went in and had a cup of tea.
Your grandmother?
My grandmother, my wise woman, my hero. My world around me was a political lifestyle. We'd go to the doctors if we were sick, we were immunized, it was very much like the Kennedy family. And yet I was a little plant girl that saw fairies and angels and used my arm as a pendulum to choose which wild food to eat. My arm would swing in a certain way if it was healthy, or if it was poisonous to stay away from it. So from a little girl, I seemed to know a bit about muscle testing and kinesiology. Of course, that wasn't met well within my upbringing, but as soon as I went overseas, I was nursing around the world and working within intensive care, accident emergency surgical units, and I wanted as a woman to help and heal, but it wasn't met obviously in the Western system. And so I went to India, and there I had an experience that really blew me away. I was on a motorbike, on the back of a motorbike with my partner at the time, and we had a bad accident and landed on the gravel. And out of these two huts in the middle of nowhere came these women and children, and they picked us up in the motorbike and took us in, and they were speaking Hindi. And they got to work. They told the children to go out to the garden and choose some awfully tasting herbs, and the children knew what to get. Some were really little children. They came in, heated it up in coconut milk. They got to work on cleaning our wounds out, which were very the sort of wounds that nurses don't like. They were quite devastating, hitting the gravel at 80 k's an hour with no helmets or anything. And these children heated the medicine up in these coconut shells and warm coconut milk, and we started drinking it, and my world of pain started easing, and I started feeling this happiness coming as the women were dutifully washing out the wounds with coconut milk, then coconut toddy, then cutting up coconut strips and placing them on as dressings. And then they made us dinner, they said stay the night. No, we didn't speak the language at all, but we understood the whole medicine journey in the middle of nowhere was going on there. And the next morning when they took these coconut dressings off, I couldn't believe my eyes. After 15 years of nursing, they had pinked over, and that was normally a 4-week journey of Caltosat dressings at least. And there was no defined edging to the wounds. So what I witnessed there, and they gave us some coconut oil to take away and put on it every 3 times a day.
With herbs in it?
I don't think so. I think it was coconut oil. A week later, I had some scars. 2 weeks later, and I'm talking about severe wounds on my head, my face. I thought I'd have to live with a disfigurement all down my right side. Shorts and singlet on, you can imagine.
Sure.
So I wanted to go home and teach and learn and understand. And I had a very significant experience happen to me in India, where one morning I woke up and I was told to go down to the beach, and I swam out to this rock out on Anjuna Beach in Goa, and something happened. I spent 12 hours out on that rock. I stripped off. I was screaming at the ocean, screaming at the sky, all my stuff, the whole childhood, everything came up. Any demons I had, anything that I was holding on to, and the ocean opened up like fractals, and I was talking to the waves that wash over me. So there was a reset happening, and I didn't understand it at the time, but that evening I heard my friends calling on the beach, and it was nearly dark and the tide was right in, and we met. I jumped in the water and we met, and then they took me back to the hut, and I had nothing. I had no personality, no sense of humour, no contribution to conversation. I was a baby. I was a blank canvas. And day after day they took me, and we just explored. They fed me, and I grew, and then over 2 years I grew on Mother India, and I got on my motorbike and I would ride to villages looking like some sort of freak with a white stripe in my hair, black hair and bare feet, my Enfield motorbike. And they took me in. Each family took me in and taught me of their plants, their herbs, their food, their earth ovens, their songs, their song lines. And I didn't speak the language, but they treated me like family. In each and every place, I was with open arms. Sometimes a whole family of 8 or 9 would sleep outside to give me their hut.
All over India? Specifically, or all over the world?
Then the next 10 years I spent travelling and living with Indigenous cultures all over the world, with no protocol, no plan. It was purely honing in on my new baby self and what I truly wanted to understand and learn. I went into quite a soup of sacred geometry and mathematics and fractals and all sorts of things, and then it started to congeal with real truth, and that brought me home to plant medicine and the sacred earth medicine, the sacred earth ways, with the true wisdom keepers of this land, of every land.
No wonder. It's all making sense now. As I was taking this full page of notes yesterday, you're talking about things that are not common for us to hear. I mean, talking about, it's like a whole new take on plant medicine listening to you. And I believe so deeply, and there's such a resonance in me that the planet and the plant kingdom has all that we need to heal ourselves and to bring us back, to activate our highest potential and to bring us into our greatest yet to be. And knowing that there's such a diverse, library of plant medicine, and you also call yourself a self-appointed voice for the trees. Can we talk about that a bit?
Sure. When I learned about bush medicine, I was told to go to the forest, and the forest would teach me. And I expected to be taking notes and to be identifying and doing my herbology that way. And I was told the forest will teach you. So I went into the forest, and as a little girl I understood light language or codes or frequencies from plants. And they would show me the physiology of the human form, because that's as I understood with my nursing mind was, for example, when I did do herb college, I actually got my training as a naturopath and a medical herbalist, and my teacher gave me a bottle in front of the class and said, "What is this good for?" And I closed my eyes and I went, "Wow, that clears out a migraine through the cerebrospinal fluid, and the kidneys take away the toxins, and it's amazing." And I said to her, "You know how you see the pictures and it shows you?" And she said, "No." Then I looked at the class and said, "You know how the plant shows you in picture form how we work together and how we connect?" And they're all saying no.
So at this point you're thinking everybody has this gift.
At 28 years old I found out people don't talk to plants.
Wow, this is a whole new level of visionary right now, visionary lifestyle. You're super visionary, amazing.
Well, I think we all have that. Animals have that. We follow them, they know which medicine to go to. And when I was in the forest, these trees, they are connected and communicating with each other. But they don't have legs, and I'm watching mining companies take out these beautiful stands of Pacific kauri and sandalwood, and they want the minerals underneath. So I really wanted to be a voice for the forest. I wanted to say, no, we have medicine, we are going to stand strong. And I really do feel like a tree and feel like I'm gifted with a voice and arms and legs and a heartbeat, and I can speak for them and say, this is the medicine. 23% of our country now is only covered with native bush. It used to be over 2/3 of it. And these
country being New Zealand.
New Zealand, potent, powerful medicines, and it's been wiped out at a phenomenal rate with agriculture and forestry. And that's a problem. That's a problem because the 80% of our plants in New Zealand are found nowhere else on earth. And as I travel to each country, I find each place you have everything you need to survive. Medicine and food is growing right there. And if we don't listen to our trees, they're going to be taken down and they won't be replaced. They've become, some of them are becoming extinct, and that's a problem for me. So everything I do is about being a voice of the forest.
Oh, thank you so much for that. The forest that resonates so much, well, there's two of them really that resonate so deeply with my heart, is first and foremost, I don't know if it's foremost, but the first one that I connected with is the Redwood Forest in Northern California. When I go there, it's just a cathedral. It is so sacred and such potent medicine and such a potent place to connect with the earth. And the other one that is so much at risk is the Amazon. The Amazon rainforest being decimated at a football field a second for animal agriculture for the most part. So what do you say for the Amazon?
The Amazon is really the heart center. It is the strong medicine, and we need to change our ways because trees don't have a way of protecting themselves. They're telling each other they can protect themselves from the viruses and the the mites and the fungi that are coming through, but to protect themselves from human beings, where we've got it all muddled up, the agriculture, the animal farming, and what we feel we need to use the space for instead of trees. There is plenty of other places to use as spaces, but to take our medicine away, there is an agenda behind that. There is an agenda to keep us under par, to keep us sick, and this is the true medicine that needs to be voiced now. So my mission is to bring the mana, bring the spirit home to the forest. I teach workshops on how to make delicious, luxurious spa skin products, because we all have skin and we all love to have exfoliants and moisturizers and body oils and things. Our plants gift us all of these things. Essential oils, where the heart and the soul of the plant gives us their medicine. Turning it into food, as soon as you eat this food, you get taken on a taste journey. And so the hormones in each plant are the action and the magic, and that will take you on a journey that will start unlocking keys and bringing our health back to optimum state. It's really, it needs to be heard and seen and used. And the more we're talking about it with our children, the more we're talking about it with our friends, that plants bring our kudos and our attention back to the plants, then the forest has a voice.
Yeah, and as I understand it with the Amazon, and maybe you know the statistic and can confirm it or tell me if I'm off on it, it's my understanding that only 1% of the Amazon has been studied for medicinal benefit, right?
Yeah,
it's something like this. So it's like, it's our medicine cabinet of the planet, and we're decimating it for the 99-cent hamburger.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It's really the nightmare that we're in at the moment. But there is a lot of us now emerging with the new messages, and it can be turned around. It really can. Bush regeneration and recreation. It's happening. More of us are having a voice.
It is. That's what we're doing now.
That's what we're doing now.
This is the visionary lifestyle. It's about envisioning this world that we want, talking about it, articulating it, and then backing that up with the action to bring it into manifestation. Right?
Beautiful, right?
Yeah, so many. I mean, you talked about eating the plants. So let's talk for a minute about wild food, eating wild food. This was something you touched on quite a bit yesterday, and as a way for it to connect us with the earth and its cycles, and expand on that.
Sure. Yeah, wild food is growing all around us in the exact place it needs to be, and in the right season. And our medicine, when we go into our seasonal herbs that are all around us, that is our medicine for right here and now. It's potent, we don't need much, so the plants will let us know. For example, when there is aerial spraying, burdock root will shoot up everywhere, and that's a deep cleanser of the planet. It sends out a taproot that will attract all the toxins and heavy metals from Gaia. And when we take burdock root, it attracts all the toxins and heavy metals from our blood. So whatever's happening on the planet, when we tap in and tune in and plug in, we're actually affected in the same way, because we are one. We are mirroring what's going on with the planet. Everywhere you hear children's laughter, you'll see plantain growing. It's nature's band-aid. When we start using this, we heal so quickly. The fire of plants that comes in the springtime, that will clean us out. Fire is for spring. It actually starts to give us a lymphatic clean out, and it cleans out our cancers and inflammations and things that we may have gathered over the winter. So when we start looking at what is growing at what times of the year, then that's where we get our true health back.
Yeah, so incredible. So a large part of your focus is about the cycles and the rhythms, right? And you spoke about the different cycles for our blood, relating it to the seasons. Can you touch on that, please?
Sure. Yeah, as we come out of our hibernation in winter, we come into the springtime. So the fiery plants that I'm talking about, that's the hottest, and it thins our blood for the wild food cycle. The leaves and the flowers are very hot, and it's a relief, because after our winter of roots and often meat as the hunters and gatherers, we need that blood thinning ability. The receptor in our eye is triggered by the spring equinox, which drops our melatonin, so we're not so sleepy, and our estrogen and testosterone is at an all-time high. All around us then is cleavers growing, which is like a little miner's brush, and that's what you'd use to clean out pipes. and we start moving, our blood is thinning out. So all the wild food that we're eating, we now are using that energy. Instead of storing it for fat, we're using it for our energy. And then as we go through the spring and our hormones start to really fire, it brings a lot of joy and a surge of love and energy. And our melatonin is dropping away further and further. And that's when all the animals are giving birth, and that's when we give birth too. And looking at the lichens and the moss that are growing around high in the woods, which is where we want to give birth in the springtime, there's these beautiful, it's called Methuselah's beard lichen, that is given to the mother straight after birth. And then there's another lichen called lungwort, which moisturizes and moisturizes the tissue that produces breast milk. There's Icelandic moss, which really helps promote the flow of breast milk, and then there's black tree lichen, which is mixed with a grease, and that's put on the baby's umbilical cord as an antiseptic, antibiotic. There's phagmine moss growing all through the woods, which is antiseptic and highly absorbent and soft, which is used for nappies. There's just lots of like juice of reindeer lichen, which is used to bathe the baby. And we can keep working through the cycles. It gets muggy and the bites start coming out, and we want to move down to the ocean. So as we hit the river, which is only a 2-day trip down to the beach often, we'll hit the mouth of the river, and that's where the fish have come up on their migratory trail. And so the salmon and the trout is the exact sort of cholesterol that we need, the good fats that we need. The birds have all started laying their eggs, so as we've cleared out the cholesterol from the winter, we have an oil change, and we engage in that cholesterol of eggs and fish. And then we come down to the ocean, and there we have seaweed in abundance. Also, as the tide slips out, there's a treasure trove of food and medicine and beauty treatments and aphrodisiacs, because we're going to conceive on the beach. And these seaweeds are amazing because we can take them in through atomized sea iodine through the salt air. Our feet are made of special tissue that absorb the hormones of seaweed and all plants, actually, as we're walking barefoot through the forest. They also absorb the moisture and gets rid of impurities by walking on mud and that sort of thing. We've got laminarian and fucoidin, which are specific for building our bodies to conceive. We've got all the shellfish for the omega-3 and the fish, and what else do we need at that point? The iodine is also useful for clearing out cancers that we have grown over the winter, and inflammation, parasites, bacteria that started to form. So we eat it with these seaweeds that are absolute superfoods. They are the most powerful foods on earth, and we can also put it on our skin. It's made of a special gel, right?
Good for inside and outside.
Inside and outside, and maybe some people relate it back to the millions of years ago when we had to curl up into the seaweed. It's perfect components that match our skin. So as the sea goes out, as the tides go out, the seaweed stays moist. And the bladderwrack holds a beautiful gel in its pod that stays cold no matter how hot the day. And you can use it as an exfoliant, and you put strips of kelp on your face as beauty treatments. And
I'm having this visual as you're taking us through this journey of like us as like naked, wild, human creatures, right? Like running through the forest into the ocean and making love under the moon and becoming pregnant, and and the mother's milk, and like and giving birth, in nature. And this is such a beautiful vision. Like I can go there in the vision with you and understand all of this. How do we bring it into a modern context in the practical world? Because most people are not living that way.
No, they're not.
We might want to.
No, I think it's great to get an understanding that nature will match us, and that as we take that cycle of our blood is cleared out in the spring, and then it's healed in the summer, and then we fortify it in the autumn, and we rest it in the winter, that plants will do that with us. And the seasons will do it with us, and the sun, how it hits the pineal gland. You know, we're all wearing sunglasses. We need the sun to hit our pineal gland so that we can get that information. That's the gateway between the body and the sky. If we just take one wild food a day, one dandelion, a few leaves in our salad, or dandelion root instead of coffee, if we look at the wild food that is being consumed by people in the local area that you're in, and even just introducing 1 or 2 leaves a day will start to change you. Because these wild foods come into our body and show us a balanced system, and then our body organizes itself to match that. And so whatever the conditions are, say in Bali here, with the really hot sun, the plants that are also living in those hot sun conditions, as we consume them, we're consuming our sunscreen. We don't burn, we start to tan, we are protected from the inside out. So going to the locals and asking, what is it that you eat here? What are the wild foods I can eat? It's only asking, and within a very short time, you'll be pointed out to berries and weeds which are growing everywhere for a reason. They're not noxious, they're growing because there are medicine all around us. We need to take note of these beautiful wild weed alleys that are here for us. Go into the forest, but I'd urge everyone to find out the local medicine folk in the area that they're in, because medicine folk love nothing more than to share their wisdom, because they know it's a dying wisdom and it's the key to our health and healing moving forward.
Wow, there's so much depth here. Yeah, global medicine, wild food. So much wisdom in nature and the plant kingdom. You talked also about codes, the Fibonacci sequence. How does that tie into the work that you're doing, and what do people need to know about the Fibonacci sequence?
Fibonacci sequence is a mathematical formula, a code it's a sacred code that beckons us to look at the patterns of creation and regeneration in nature. It's there, it's everywhere we look. So when we have eyes to see it, life becomes very magical and filled with awe again. And a lot of people aren't aware of it. So as you look into a leaf or a tree, or those same structures, that art that appears on the beach when the water forms those channels, that's your branches of your lungs, that's the branches of the trees, that's what our capillaries look like on the surface of our heart. This is the golden thread that ties us through with nature, and nature is the unifying principle of all things, but it governs our individual natures. So you can look at any part of us and the measurements all line up to 1.618. You take a number, and when you multiply it by 1.618, that over and over and over again is the growth. You'll see it in a nautilus shell, in a pineapple, in a pine cone, fish scales, and then you start to see the Fibonacci sequence in our growth as a human being. You'll see it in the nautilus shell, you'll see it in the architecture all around here, acknowledging the bioresonance and the sacred architecture of nature that we are part of. And then you see it in the swirling galaxies, you'll see it in beehives. Everything that you look at with those eyes, you see there is a connect, that we are one, and we're part of this nature code. So the Fibonacci, it's important that we acknowledge that. The codes that come from plant wisdom, maybe I see it in a different way, I'm not sure. I can, sometimes people like Jai Jagdish, or when I'm listening to music, I can close my eyes and see these similar codes coming like waterfalls. They're like little light language flowing in the music. So my feeling is it's a frequency or a harmonic that's coming from plants and animals as well. My thing is really with plants. I can be in a forest and my body seems to know how to translate that harmonic into a physiological picture of how this plant medicine can help us. Also, plants will show us in the doctrine of signatures. It's a language that is playful And when we open to our heart space and be fairy-like, we can go into a forest and we start to see heart medicine is shaped like a heart.
Right.
And it's the whole God's pharmacy thing. The avocado, good for the uterus, takes 9 months to form and looks like a uterus, and the walnut looks like a brain. And there's, you know, the way that nature will show us what it's for in playful ways.
I love that you brought that up. That is something I like to point out to people and raise awareness about, that looking at your food in this way. And this is a good way to get people to kind of grasp, you know, these concepts. Is that, yes, if you look visually with your own two eyes, your human eyes, it's just even to the walnut is a great example. It's a really easy one. If you just hold a walnut in the palm of your hand, a half a walnut, it looks like a little brain. It's good for your brain.
Yes.
This is the doctrine of signatures. We'll put a link to that in the show notes for people to understand that better. And like kale for the lungs, right?
Yes.
Kale for the lungs, and beet for the heart. I mean, the beet, it looks like a bleeding heart. You cut a beet in half, it looks like a bleeding heart.
Absolutely.
It's good for your heart.
Yeah. And our native medicine has that too. So at home we have red matapo. It's a red stem, and I've had people with blood pressure from like 220 over 120, which is a ticking time bomb, and taken his blood pressure right down using this. The red veins in this plant is showing us this will tonify and strengthen veins and capillaries and arteries. So many of our medicines will show us this, right down to Bushman's toilet paper. We brought our children up on this medicine, and we taught them to ask from the heart. So also when we're communicating with plants, there'll be, for example, the kawakawa you can pull on the leaf, and then when you ask from the heart, oh, my brother's got a sore chest and I'd like to make him a tea from this. It's like the plant goes choo and throws all its medicine into its leaves, and it falls off in your hand. And a really good experiment we did with this when I was first taught by this beautiful green herb healer. She was just a total fairy element. She took us into this stinging nettle that was growing above our heads, and said nettle demands our attention. So when you pay utmost attention, you're beautiful, you're dark green, you're so fortified and amazing, she won't sting you. And even though the same stinging hairs are there with the same substance, as long as she has your attention, she won't sting you. So we were bear harvesting stinging nettle in our baskets, a whole group of us, totally focused. And then I thought I heard bagpipes, and I went, is that bagpipes? And everyone was, ow, 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 ow. And we all started getting stung by the same plants.
Incredible.
And had to bring our focus back and ignore the fear that came in with that, to then grasp the nettle. So these plants are really communicating with us, and that's a very profound way of learning that.
Whoa, I love that. I can totally visualize that happening. And for those who are not familiar with stinging nettle, I mean, if you have a farmer's market near you, maybe you're lucky enough to have a farmer who's growing it. I have it in Ojai, where I was living the last few years, that I would go to the farmer, and I would always love to go and touch the stinging nettle just to get the little shock. It is quite sharp. It's
really
quite
is
painful.
Yeah.
So this is a very powerful herb, and this is incredible to know that you could actually go through it and, heights over your head and not be stung by it.
No, and grabbing it, harvesting it, breaking it, and putting it in our basket, and then utilizing the medicine. And she's a very strong ally, and there's a beautiful woman called Susan Weed, I don't know if you know of her, but she talks of plants having personality, like dandelion is a lover of the ladies and doesn't like blemishes and things, so gets rid of zits and blemishes when you put the milk on. And nettle is a very strong goddessy plant, and if you don't give her that attention, she'll sting you, she'll have a way with you. And that's it's lovely when you start to see plants as our family and friends with very strong personalities, as is their medicine and food.
Whoa.
It's beautiful.
We're going deep in the plant medicine. I love this. The plant kingdom has so much. I mean, it has all the medicine we need. This is powerful. I love this. You mentioned heart speak and faith stepping.
Yes.
I would love to introduce people to these ideas.
Sure. I just mentioned the heart speak with my children, and that really is learning to drop into your heart space and then speaking from there. As I am now, I'm not thinking of what I'm going to say next. I'm opening my mouth and it's coming out. This is my heart speak. It's my passion, my love. We didn't immunise our children, we brought them up, as I'd learnt in India with these children that just as a matter of course understood which plants to go to and brought us pain relief and fast healing. So we brought our children up in the forest, and to understand the forest as their friends, the wild weeds, every night if we had a curry, whatever we were doing, they would go out and harvest from their heart. They were called to the plants that they wanted. And they are both two strong, strapping, beautiful human beings, have always been healthy.
Wow.
It was the opposite to my childhood, vaccinated, sickly, going to the doctors for everything. I made a promise to myself after that experience in India that I would bring my future children up this way. And incidentally, my husband's just walked from the top of New Zealand right down to the bottom over 5 months. It took him 25 k's a day over 5 months to walk from the Cape Reinga to the Bluff. He's Australian, but he knows New Zealand plants better than anyone I know, living off the food and medicine, and a lot of it, and harvesting his own water. So a lot of it he had to drop into his heart. Being Australian, but dropping into his heart, he'd learnt a lot. We've been together 20 years now, and he'd learnt a lot from me, and I'd learnt a lot from him. So he survived largely over 5 months on our wild food and medicine of New Zealand in this way, connecting and understanding the land of his wife and children. And from heart speak through to, what was the other thing you mentioned? Sorry, was
Faith stepping.
Faith stepping. I had a personal experience of faith stepping in India. My friend and I, my dear soul sister and I, went without shoes for over a year, and we didn't really intend to do it for that long, but we grew our own shoes.
In India.
It
is in India. Okay,
yes.
go on.
And it was uncanny. There was no injuries at all. We'd be walking on the tar seal road in the middle of the day, boiling hot tar seal road, walking through Delhi, through cities, and mostly out in the country, out in the bush, in the mountains, in the cold. And we watched how our feet grew their own shoes, first of all, so we could handle any surface. I'd look around at something, and then I'd feel my foot take a step up and then land somewhere else, and as I looked down I'd see that my foot had dodged something. It might have been a snake or a bit of glass or something like that, not even looking ahead. So I completely stepped into, and I'd heard about it, but this was a very deep experience, trusting that our feet have our safety in mind and will soak up the right hormones from plants, the right moisture, will be cleaned. We used to stand in fresh cow pats to clean and condition our feet, which, holy cow, in India they're everywhere. And we learnt to trust our feet. We didn't look down. So even on our motorbike, we didn't look down. We could walk and be completely plugged in and aware of our environment. A lot of people are aware of only 3 to 5 feet around them. Especially in the city.
Right.
We could be scanning out to the horizons and all the energies around us, and our feet knew exactly where to go. And I think in this way, with the water carriers, and you'll see them a lot here and India, that they place the water on their heads, and your chin goes up a few degrees, and that not only makes you feel happier and more eyes towards the sky, it brings your chest out, and the water sends a rod down your spine where some muscles contract and others relax, so that you become completely aligned. The water is teaching us alignment, and then you can't see 3 feet in front of you, so you need to step into your own trust, your own faith, that your feet will know where to go while your chin is up and you're gazing further ahead. So this is my understanding of faith stepping, and I really enjoyed that experience, that our feet have their own intelligence. They'll swell up in winter to grow our own slippers, and you'll be warm. And you see this in the mountains. You see them with, I thought I was seeing elephantitis everywhere. They were insulated feet.
Incredible.
It's incredible what we need to have bare feet. We need to be earthing to our energies.
Yeah.
When you walk over rocks, we brought our kids up rock running. So running over rocks from a very young age, their eye, brain, foot coordination was incredible, and now they're amazing athletes. But you're jumping, and even if they're sharp rocks or seaweed covered, your feet know where to go, even though you're moving across them quickly. And we do it too, Robbie and I do it too. And it's a beautiful way to understand the engineering of our feet, how they can sit, they'll fit perfectly around angles, and the body weight is the perfect pressure for our reflexology points in our feet.
Yeah, and this is incredible. This is totally blowing my mind, this conversation. And so many things, directions I can go from here, but one question that's really coming up is, you're so in touch with your intuition. And I'm wondering, do you do a third eye practice? I mean, it just seems like this is all ajna, like, visionary, third eye chakra. Like, do you do any practice to cultivate all this intuition, or is it just you're spending a lot of time in nature?
I have done a lot of practices in the past. Vipassana, spent many months in caves, doing cave stints, learning alchemy, learning Ayurvedic medicine, being with the people wherever I was plugged into whatever they were doing. If they were chanting in the 4 a.m, I was doing that, or whatever their practice was became my practice. So years of doing that, and then building my own earth clinic and doing the I don't know what we would call it, would be Reiki, energy work. I did a lot of shamanic work, and so my daily clinic work was going into the energetic space. So, and working with my clients, I could put my hands on and then just see what was happening, even the land wars from where their lineage was coming from. So it just seems to come in pictures for me. I don't have a practice now, but my practice is walking in the rice paddy fields, or I honestly feel like, and I think I might have said this to you, I feel like a tree, like at any given moment, even though we're building this new earth in Sierra Leone, Kerala, Uluwatu, New Zealand, and I'm in charge of the whole medicine food side, the labs, the connecting in with the medicine folk. There is a lot happening in my life, but at any point I'll be sitting there and I'll feel like a tree with a completely blissed out mind state and not many thoughts coming in at all, and that seems to be my default. So maybe that is like a living meditation. It's hard to put into words, but it's a very pure state of bliss. I feel like maybe a tree feels when it's just juicing up. Just being. And sucking the nutrients up from Gaia, right? From Mother Earth, all your nutrition coming up from Gaia, And a lot of bare feet time. I'm trying to envision you like going through airports and things. It must be something for you to be, putting on shoes and carrying suitcases. I mean, it just seems so wild to me. Just listening to all of this, and it's incredible that you're in the practical world and you're sharing this ancient wisdom and helping people learn to be more connected to the cycles and the rhythms of the earth. I deeply appreciate the work that you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about the projects. You just mentioned a little bit about the places that you're working in. What are the projects? What is your work? What are you doing? Right now I've set up a 7 Sisters project. So I'm working directly with the women in 7 islands in the Pacific, Papua New Guinea and Sierra Leone and Zambia, plus of course our Maori culture in New Zealand. So what we're doing is taking a distillery in that they can put over a campfire. They just need running water, and then they wild harvest their traditional plants and they put it into the distillery and make essential oil out of it. So whatever practice they have, using their ancient medicine techniques, whatever traditions they have, and whatever wild foods that they want to share, then I'm engaging with the woman and they're setting up a grassroots business. They can engage whoever they want. They can say, we want to do 1 litre a year, we want to do 40 litres a year. We're not going and westernising in any way. We're saying you do it at your pace. So an exciting thing is we've now engaged 14 villages across the islands, and each one of them are making coconut oil, fermented, cold pressed, beautiful organic coconut oil, cacao. So I've started doing cacao ceremonies, and that's how I can bring my medicine lineage through cacao ceremony and opening the heart and transforming our community back into that heart space. In Papua New Guinea, we helped the locals set up a spa on the beach. They built it out of their local resources, taught them how to massage, build a little spa business, And then they get cacao and coffee and vanilla from their wild mountains, and no one's doing like cacao essential oil and coffee essential oil.
Whoa.
So it's a very powerful medicine.
Next
We're bringing
level.
in the soul level. Yeah, the soul of the plant is coming to them in that way. I'm working with a dear goddess friend of mine who's the chief's daughter in Zambia, and she is in Auckland, a very successful businesswoman, and her brother has now been inaugurated as chief. So we're going back there with the New Earth Initiative, and they want to bring a new wave, a new project, a new way of bringing their medicine and their food and their land into a free sovereign nation. We're doing that also in Sierra Leone, a much bigger project that has 5,000 residents, and
Wow, 5,000.
plus the whole, we've got 4 New Earth havens, and the lab, which is the part I'm doing, the apothecary, and bringing the wild food and medicine into the restaurants. And that is also replicated in India, New Zealand, my base, and Uluwatu. So there's some big things happening, big projects happening.
Incredible. I'm so blown away by the work that you're doing. You mentioned cacao ceremony. This is a topic that I wanted to introduce people to, a ceremony that I want to introduce my listeners to and dive a little bit deeper. What is a cacao ceremony?
Cacao is one of those plants that's come into her time. There's a few plants now that have been lying dormant. Cacao's been used for thousands of years in ceremony and ritual, and now it's come into it. I see it as a she, to help us connect back into the heart, back into Gaia. It's a beautiful plant medicine, so it's got the bliss molecule anandamide, and what it does is it drops us into our heart space, and we can transform through community. We can release all that's not serving us, and it's by drinking this raw chocolate, this cacao. We honour the directions, honour the ancestors of the land. I personally, there's lots of different ways of doing ceremony. I did my training here with beautiful Oziera and Ella Scott, and took it home. In my first ceremony, 220 people came.
Whoa.
It was huge. And I dressed in ceremonial gear, not wanting to, bring them fully into the experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of people came from the corporate world, never heard of it before, never experienced it. And I took them through the 5 elements. So we went into air dancing and becoming air, and then earth, it was more solid and more drumming, and then the ecstatic fire. I had a band actually playing for each one, so we had Tamani doing their fire in 20 minutes of staying in that ecstatic place. And it's conscious partying, like it brings you into that pure bliss. And the sun hadn't even set, the sun was streaming in, and you'd think we were in a rave bar in London. It was amazing. And then bringing everyone back down into the water and the flow, and then right into spirit and the pure essence. And then we go on a global meditation, coming to the crystal core. And it's a way of connecting us to all beings, a way of connecting us to each other, coming to our heart space and our passion and our bliss. What is that? So it's questioning that. Everyone comes and sets an intention for the ceremony. So we set a personal intention, and then I pass a talking stick around to offer one word for a community intention. So it's a place that we can consciously create collective intention and focus and clarity in one space. So it's potent in that way. In 2 hours we can bring our creation, our visions together. And the feedback afterwards, especially from people that hadn't been there, and a lot of men, with tears rolling down their face, saying, I've travelled the world looking for this. This is my tribe. This is the feelings they got, the bliss they came to with no drugs and no alcohol, and connecting them with their brothers and sisters in a collective, unified creation that we created together. That's my bliss, and this is what cacao is bringing as well. And we're all intending it, but this is what a cacao ceremony is for me. Yeah.
Incredible. Are you doing those on a regular basis in different places, or is that a one-off?
After that one, I got a few
Addicted
calls.
yourself?
Got addicted.
Few invitations?
Yeah, and so I've been doing a few more. I hooked up with a guy called Matiu Tahuki, who's a very powerful Maori warrior at home and a dear soul brother. and a lot of he goes and does a lot of the Byron festivals and travels a lot around Australia as well, bringing his medicine. So we did a roots festival, which was beautiful and combined his haka and coming into your warrior self, and then I took it into a cacao ceremony and brought my plant medicine and foods and wild foods and making all these 12 products. And then he brought his protocol, Maori protocol, and it was just a beautiful synergy over 3 days. And when I get back, we're doing 2 days after I get back, we're doing a loving vibes gathering. So Matayu Tahuki again, the kirtan, which is the ecstatic soft, building it up again.
Yeah.
And then we've got Matayu playing, taking everyone to the cosmos after the cacao ceremony with organic, beautiful food that's all grown right there in the area by our beautiful sisters at the Gaia Tree. So it's the full experience. You're getting this food that's just zinging, and it really is so delicious. It's organic, but it's grown seasonally by these earth angels who are also making it. And then we take the cacao, takes you to the next level with the music and the codes and the frequencies and the ecstasy.
I'm just imagining the transformation of people, do you do before and after pictures with the events?
That's a great idea.
Before and
That's a
after
great
interviews,
idea.
even better, video interviews, people walking in. I imagine even just the cacao ceremony, people coming in from the corporate world and, just how reserved they might be and kind of in their own kind of psychic cage, right? And then just the after of just a few hours after, right? Just completely blown wide open, right?
It's not they don't need to go through years of, it can happen in that instant, and that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you so much. You just reminded me of another comment that you made during your talk that I really appreciated when you said you don't need to go out and learn all these things.
No.
Right? You need to tap into what you already know. It was something along these lines. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. And I say that from deep experience of getting quadruple diplomas and many years, nursing and through natural medicine and all the schools and extra courses, and that was my thing. I'll just learn this and then I'll be ready. I'll just do this one more course. So it was that sense of, and maybe a lot of men and women hold that I'm not quite ready. Do I own this space? Do I have the right to speak about this now? Oh, I'll just do one more. So 20 years of that, of learning, and that's what this tattoo is about, is my rites of passage to now start speaking my experiences and sharing those and allowing others to share, because I think when you can be your authentic voice, step into that, you're giving permission for everyone to step up and be in that authenticity. So the way we can do that is to first of all say yes, and then go into our heart space and ask, what do I love? What am I good at? That's it. Like, go back through your life. What is it that I do given any given day and not paid for that I love? That's your gift. Go with that. And that's beautiful how it's seen in physiology as well, and a lot of neuroscience. If you follow John Assaraf's work, there's neurons and dendrites in our brain, and the ones that are on our gift, on our passion, on our life mission, they actually physically grow spines. And all the food and nourishment and wild medicine that we take first feeds this. It first feeds our heart and a bit to our brain. The rest goes in the spine before any other functions of the body. So we were born to find our gift, and everything that we do nourishes that spine to make that path strongest. So I think it's quite urgent that we step into that. Wow, what am I good at? Because that's my gift. Now let's do that.
Yeah, go in that direction, follow that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of, the world's waiting as well. That's part of the orchestra. That's part of the harmony that we all make together.
Excuse me, it's really noisy and moving the furniture around. Can you please? Thank you. We're almost done. Thank you so much.
Almost done. This is so perfect. I want to bring it in here. This is a great place to end. It's just giving people the nugget of, what to do with all of this and to follow that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We had some nice quiet to close it with too. We just lost it. That's okay. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. And and giving people that nugget here, just wrapping up this incredible conversation with that, and giving people permission to trust themselves and to trust their voice, and the reminder to just tap into their heart's wisdom and to follow that.
Yes. Yeah. That's everything. That really is everything. When we tap into that magnetic pole, it sits at our heart point, and fractal out and feel into others that are on that fractal too will be your unity, will be your strength. But until we drop into that and send that message out, they won't hear it.
Right.
So let's drop into that, send that fractal out, find others on your fractal, and in unity we can achieve anything. We are unstoppable. We really are.
We certainly are. I think about when you talk about that, when you're talking about fractals, I think about it as vibration, right? And it's like we hear a lot about the talk of law of attraction. I mean, these are different words for the same thing we're talking about, right? So getting your vibration to that point, recognizing what your heart song is, what your heart speak is, recognizing your own heart speak, right?
Yes,
and then keeping yourself vibrating at that level by nourishing your body temple with the wild foods and all these nourishing inputs, right? And beautiful relationships and wild foods, and keeping your vibration at the point where you can attract everything and everyone that you need to activate your own highest potential.
Yes, absolutely. What a beautiful summary. And your own delicious, juicy, yummy input there. That's gorgeous. And that's, if that message is coming across, I think that's, I feel that really is where our focus is now, because things are manifesting so fast, because more of us are coming into that place of truth. I mean, who's got time for ego anymore, or all of the old stuff? It's kind of these layers.
Just release that, let it go,
release it.
Follow the heart's wisdom.
And we are transparent, and we're pure, and we're looking for each other. And I'm finding this every day now. The opportunities, the resources, the people, the tribe that are showing up. When we honor our truth and our heart speak, it's delightful, it's magical. And let's stay in that place of awe and delight and childlike qualities, because that attracts it even more as well.
Right. It's
Such a
happening.
beautiful
It's
space.
happening. We're here. This is a perfect conversation for us to have at the New Earth Festival. This is the first, hopefully, annual New Earth Festival where the tribe is gathering and we're finding each other and we're becoming seeds for the New Earth.
Yes.
And having these conversations, and with wonderful technology and being able to share it through podcasts, and for more people, to get touched by the magic that's happening here.
Yes, beautiful. It is. It's magic.
Yes, it's totally magic, and the instant powers of manifestation that we're witnessing here, it blows my mind. You mentioned that in your talk yesterday too. It's just it's like immediate. You just barely even have to think it. You certainly don't even have to get to the point of speaking it. You think about someone and poof, they appear. I mean, it's non-stop happening here.
Isn't that amazing?
Mind-blowing.
Yeah. And that synchronicity is working with those energy waves. It's like the meridians and nodal points, and I find that constantly. You think of when you apply any form of science to what are the chances of that person turning up to this restaurant at this time 2 nights in a row, or it keeps happening. So there's a conversation, there's a connection that needs to happen there, and it's been lined up for all of us that really understand that world. The synchronicities is that magic flowing through us, and to take notice, because it's really...
Take notice, definitely notice, and don't put it off as a coincidence.
No,
it's like
not.
Really honor it and recognize it as you being on the right path, right? As confirmation.
Yes. Oh yeah, those are the golden threads. And they're weaving in more and more.
The golden threads. I love that.
And trusting that we can handle it. We can handle all that's coming into our life. We can handle it, and we're ready for this. Yeah.
We are the ones we've been waiting for. The time is now.
Ones. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Saying yes to the new earth. Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for your beautiful work and honoring all of us. It's a very sacred, beautiful space to hold. Thank you. I really honor your work, sister,
thank
what
you.
you're doing.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Perfect.
Thanks so much for answering the call to be here today. I'm so glad you're part of our tribe of activated rainbow warriors. If you found the show in any way empowering or inspiring, I would be so grateful if you would share the show on social media,
or with friends and family that you think would benefit from these conversations. And also, rate and review the show in iTunes. This is really the very best way to help support the show and help us get noticed by others who are looking for the sort of content that we're sharing. Now notice there are no outside ads playing here. That's because the show is supported by you, the listener. You can become a patron of the show with a small monthly donation by checking out the perks on our Patreon page at patreon.com/visionary lifestyle and signing up there. There's also a one-time donation button on the podcast page of the website if that suits you better. And just so you know, your donations help to cover the necessary out-of-pocket monthly expenses to produce the show and will also help us grow so we can inspire and educate even more people. And hey tribe, I'd love to hear from you. Visit me at visionary-lifestyle.com and please tell me your comments and questions. I really look forward to connecting with you. I love you. Namaste. Today's episode is brought to you by the Conscious Eating 101 e-course. This is a 6-week online course aimed at empowering you to make food choices that are in alignment with your values. The program is based on ahimsa, also known as non-harm, and helps you make every bite that you take an expression of love, self-love, animal love, and planet love. The course offers 15 lessons and 20 nutritious and delicious recipes and is offered over 6 weeks that you can do at your own pace. It includes lessons like plant-based nutrition, protein, dairy alternatives, the story on sugar, GMOs, label reading, and many more. If you're looking to increase your health and happiness, balance your weight, reduce your footprint on the planet, and align your food choices with your values, or are interested in being part of the solution to huge world problems like climate change, rainforest destruction, and world hunger, then this is the course for you. If this speaks to you, please check out consciouseating101.com today.